Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind Podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Wednesday, November 27th. It is 2024, and we're here to talk NFL Thanksgiving Day slate, 3-game NFL slate. We're going to talk about this instead of basketball today. Love talking basketball. A lot of back-to-backs, a lot of injury news. Decided when I realized that I was going to be solo today. It's Thanksgiving week, so I really don't like bothering people and like trying to get people to come on the podcast with me during this week because it's a holiday week. And when I realized I was gonna be solo for today, I was like, man, I'm just gonna talk NFL. Talk about this 3-game slate. I was trying to figure out when I was gonna fit this 3-game slate in anyway. I like it slate. It's fun. Obviously we all like football on Thanksgiving. You're silly if you don't like football on Thanksgiving, because you're just not being honest. So we all love the NFL on Thanksgiving. Eat some turkey. What's your favorite Thanksgiving food, chat? I see you over there, Yeezy, Derek. What's your favorite Thanksgiving Day food? I mean, it's a deep fried turkey, always up there. Deviled eggs and mashed potatoes and gravy just can't go wrong, right? I hope everyone's having a fantastic Tuesday night and enjoying sweet potato pie. Yeah, sweet potato pie is good. I like chocolate pie. Personally, it's probably my favorite, but I mean, you're really hard to go wrong with like an apple pie. Deviled eggs, yeah. I mean, gosh, deviled eggs just fantastic. So, deep fried turkey and all the casseroles, yeah. Gosh, man, I love some deep fried turkey. So my family does normal turkey, and then my wife's family does deep fried turkey, and typically they do something exotic. Bunch of hunters on that side of the family, so we'll get something fun, I'm sure. Always good food. Eat way too much, but I'm always up for the challenge to eat way too much on Thanksgiving. So we're going to talk through this 3-game NFL slate for Thanksgiving Day. Huge prize pools across the industry. We typically see this year in and year out on this slate. We get big prize pools. So I figured this would be helpful, probably a little bit more helpful with all the NBA back-to-backs and situations and injury and stuff like that. Listen, pay attention to injuries throughout the day tomorrow for NBA. I feel like there's going to be a lot of news in the NBA, and I think there's going to be a lot of people potentially sitting or resting because they're off on Thursday. So pay attention to NBA injury report more than ever if you're going to play an NBA on Wednesday night. So I'll be on premium content and probably won't even start working on my premium content until 1:30 when the injury, like the most updated injury report comes out. So let's talk some football. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in chat. Candy yams. Oh, man, candy yams, so good. Tamales. Oh, man, you guys are making me hungry. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge pumpkin fan either. I'll do a piece of pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving at some point, I'm sure, just because it's kind of the thing to do, right? All right, we got Chicago at Detroit, 48.5 total in this game. Detroit, a 10-point favorite. They have the highest implied total on this slate by 4 points higher than Green Bay. So obviously we're going to get to the Detroit side, but we got to start here with the Chicago side because I think the Chicago side of this game is extremely interesting. Detroit's defense is really, really solid. 4th in run EPA, 1st in pass EPA this season. They are allowing the 7th most passing yards per game, but only allowing 94.9 rushing yards per game. Chicago's game script in this game should favor these pass catchers and Caleb Williams needing to throw the ball more. They should be trailing in this game. Detroit should put up plenty of points in this game. Bears defense not awful, but I mean, I think when we're just looking at the spot overall, we definitely prefer the pass catchers here, Allen Odunze and more. It's just kind of figuring out which one we want to play, and I'm going to try to do the best I can to break this down. The Bears, very tough when it comes to this kind of stuff. On the season, the Bears, Keenan Allen has a 29.9% first read rate. DJ Moore is at 26.3, and Odunze is at 21.3. So obviously Keenan Allen, a main focal point of this offense. He's obviously the highest first read rate. We look at last week, all three of them played or ran a route on 80+%. Keenan Allen had 36.5% of the air yards. Odunze had 30.1. DJ Moore only had 5.5%. DJ Moore did have 7 targets. He's just not really getting deep targets. They're throwing a lot of like short passes to him. But, I mean, he was still able to end up with 106 yards last week and a touchdown. He had a huge game against Minnesota. Keenan Allen, 86 yards last week, 9 catches, 15 targets, 31.3% target rate, 36.8% for Keenan Allen last week for his first read rate. And I was looking at some of the data on Keenan Allen, and his targets have been fantastic here recently. If we're looking at the last 5 weeks, because we like to break it down a little bit, we don't necessarily love small sample size, but if we look at the last 5 games for Keenan Allen, he is currently sitting at a 32.2% first read rate, and he has a 25.3% target percentage. All this to say, Keenan Allen on DraftKings at 5,100, I feel like is just a really good price tag for him. Love this spot for him. I think that he is someone that I'm going to be overweight on. I'm going to probably end up overweight on Caleb Williams as well. I think Caleb Williams has a lot of upside in a game that he's trailing. We saw it last week. He threw for 340 yards in that Minnesota game, 2 touchdowns, ran for 33 yards on top of that, over 100 yards rushing in the last 2 games combined. So 70 and 33. Like the upside. The stack is really cheap. Like if you play Caleb Williams and you play Keenan Allen, it's a really, really cheap stack. You could throw DJ Moore in there, and it's just a cheap stack overall. I do prefer Odunze over Moore if I'm just looking at ceiling. I think Odunze has a higher ceiling. He continues to lead this team on air yard share. His average depth of target is really good. They're using all 3 of these guys. They run a 3 wide receiver set a lot, so I think that you can take shots on any of these guys, but if I was gonna rank the Chicago wide receivers, I would rank them Keenan Allen, Odunze, Moore. I don't think I'm getting to a Cole Kmet. His targets really solid last week against Minnesota, but really down basically all season outside of a couple spots. So large field tournaments, sure. I probably don't end up there. I prefer taking shots on 2 wide receivers and Caleb Williams if I'm going to stack Chicago. Detroit side of this game, St. Brown obviously dealing a little bit of a knee. We'll see. He should be good to go. I mean, he's the focal point of this passing game. He's the guy you're looking at in this matchup. Not the greatest matchup in the world, but continues to lead the team in first read rate, target percentage, air yard share is right there with Jameson Williams. Jameson Williams, if you break it down per game, St. Brown's probably really, really close. So David Montgomery dealing with the shoulder. He left the game early against the Colts, but they were kind of in control of that game. If he were to sit here, Gibbs would just be as a workhorse back would be phenomenal. Would have a ton of interest in him, but I really like St. Brown. I think this is a really good spot to play him. Obviously, like I mentioned, Detroit has the highest implied team total by 4 points. So they're going to project to score a lot here. We saw Tim Patrick get 8 targets over the last 2 weeks. He's 3,500. I don't know if we're necessarily going to need that because there is a lot of cheap plays this week. But, I mean, you could potentially take some shots on Tim Patrick. I was going to pull up Tim Patrick's let's pull up his last 3 weeks really quick. So Tim Patrick around 46% routes run on dropbacks. First read, 10%. So not seeing a ton of upside here from Tim Patrick, but, I mean, week 10, he didn't have any targets. So if we look at We'll look at week 11 and week 12 for Tim Patrick, where he's had a little bit of share here. Still 50.6, first read rate 12%. Jared Goff is really good at progressing through his wide receivers, and I'm not too concerned about being underweight if Tim Patrick gets a little chalky here because he is really cheap. So I like St. Brown a lot. I like Gibbs a lot. I don't mind Williams. I don't mind Laporta. Don't hate Jared Goff. I mean, it's really like quarterback play this week. Outside of the Giants and Dallas game, I think you can play any of the 4 quarterbacks. Tua, Love, Goff, Williams. You could technically play a quarterback from the Giants-Dallas game. That game is indoors. It's in Dallas. And both of those defenses are awful, but we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. So, yeah, I mean, on the Detroit side, St. Brown and Gibbs are my main targets here. But I don't have issues with Goff, Montgomery, Williams, Laporta. I think Detroit's going to score touchdowns. They play such an aggressive style of offense that it's hard not to love them on a week-to-week basis. And, I mean, they're so good at scoring fantasy points, and they pass the ball the least amount in the NFL, 51.2%, the lowest rate in the NFL. So it is what it is, right? Candy, yeah, you guys got me wanting some candy yams. I don't know what we're bringing this year for Thanksgiving. I let my wife handle that. I'll help her cook tomorrow to get ready for Thanksgiving, but I let my wife handle that. My son, one of my sons, has strep throat right now, so he's on medicine, so I'm hoping we can still do Thanksgiving. We'll see. Hopefully he feels better. Giants and Cowboys, 37 total here. Dallas a 3.5 point favorite. This game's a mess. I just was like debating on how I was going to break this game down, and kind of just going to go through everything here. I mean, we played DeVito last week. Noto talked me into it. He's not here to kick. I want to kick him. DeVito did exactly what we kind of thought he was going to do. 11 fantasy points. He didn't necessarily kill you. He didn't help you, though. Malik Neighbors had 0 catches in the first half. He had all of his production in the second half of that game. They really just didn't get anything going in the first half of that game. I don't know what Neighbors had target-wise. I just remember him having 0 catches in the first half. Really got going in the second half of that game. 9 targets, total 6 catches. My favorite play from the Giants, one of my favorite plays on the entire slate, is Tyrone Tracy. Absolutely love this spot for him. Dallas's run defense is really, really bad. They're 32nd in run EPA. They allow the second most rushing yards per game. I think that Tyrone Tracy is a phenomenal play. They use him out of the backfield, catching the ball. Love the upside in this matchup against this Cowboys defense. So I don't care who plays quarterback for me to like Tracy. I like Tracy regardless. Drew Lock and DeVito, is there really a difference between the two? I mean, are they both they're both probably equally bad? Main targets, Malik Neighbors, Tracy, and I mean maybe some Robinson at 4,700. They had a couple potential plays with Jalen Hylett the week before or 2 weeks ago, but really just didn't get anything going. That's really it. I mean, we'll see if Theo Johnson plays. If Theo Johnson plays, you could potentially take some shots on him. He has 18 targets over the last 3 games. He's 2,900. Tight end's really interesting this week. So, I mean, I think a lot of it kind of depends whether or not Ferguson plays or not. He didn't practice on Tuesday. He's still in concussion protocol. The fact that he's back-to-back seems like he probably a long shot to play this game. If he's out, Schoonmaker at 3,400 would be playable here. It really didn't have a big game going, but caught a touchdown late in that Washington game. CeeDee Lamb, going to the Dallas side here, CeeDee Lamb, I think is very playable. His target share is just incredibly high. Rush has almost looked okay against Houston and Washington. He's almost looked okay against Houston and Washington, enough where I guess outside of the 4 that I mentioned, Cooper Rush would be the next guy up for me if I was going to play one of these cheaper quarterback plays. I don't love the idea. I don't know if we're necessarily going to need it, but I don't hate the idea of playing Cooper Rush with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb first read rate with Cooper Rush at quarterback the last 2 weeks, 37.3%, 25% target rate. He's averaging 11 targets. He has 22 targets over that span. Schoonmaker is next at 13 targets for what it's worth. So I don't hate the idea of playing Cooper Rush, but I really like CeeDee Lamb in this spot. In tournaments, I think like you could take some large field tournament shots on like Turpin or Tolbert if you really wanted to. I prefer CeeDee Lamb and Schoon, assuming that Ferguson doesn't play. Dowdle is really interesting at 5,500. The Giants' run defense is really bad too. They're allowing the third most rushing yards per game. They're 27th in run EPA. So Rico, I mean, at this point, Zeke, I know it's like the Salvation Army, Zeke touchdown, jump in the bowl, Thanksgiving Day game. Maybe Zeke steals a touchdown from Rico, but overall, I don't think I want to play Zeke. If anything, and I don't recommend doing this, if anything, maybe betting Zeke to score a touchdown just because it's kind of like a Dallas thing. I was looking to see what his touchdown prop was real quick. Let's see. Anytime touchdown plus 350 on Hard Rock. I think I'd want it to even be higher than that. It's Rico, it's CD, it's Schoon. And like I said, if I was going to play a quarterback outside of those four that I mentioned to start, I think it would be Rush. If he plays, if he's out, Trey Lance, I kind of would prefer Rush more than I would prefer Rush more than Lance. Yeah, Dave, the Cowboys defense did play really well against Washington last week. They scored 22 fantasy points. They had, 2 defensive touchdowns? What's crazy, they still allowed 26 points. So there's that. Their defense played well last week, but they still allowed over 400 total yards too. So they played better, I guess. 4 sacks and 2 touchdowns. I mean, DFS-wise, they were great. Actual defense play wasn't good. So, I mean, I think both of these defenses are in play in this game just because the offense is pretty bad. Flyer at home versus DeVito or Locke, sure. I mean, I think both of these defenses are in play. I don't really have a favorite defense this week. To me, it's just kind of whoever I end up on price-wise. Like any of these defenses, like I don't think there's a standout defense on this slate. Maybe Detroit because they get to the quarterback so much, but I don't really want to pay up for them either if I don't have to. So we finish out the slate. Already seeing people in chat talking about a cold weather game here for Miami and Green Bay. It's supposed to be under 20 from what Kevin Roth posted on the weather page. We'll see if we get an updated. We'll get an updated report on him. I don't know if it'll be Wednesday night or Thursday, but we'll see. It's a 47 total. Green Bay's a 3.5 point favorite. I might be a homer, but I think the Dolphins are going to show up in this game. The offense has looked awesome since Tua has come back. Huge game for them just in general. But I mean, you look at since Tua has come back, they've scored at least 27 points in 4 out of 5 games. I think that you could take shots here on Tua. I know the cold weather narrative for him, but I don't care that much. I still want to play the Dolphins. I want to play Tyreek. He's under 7K on a 3-game slate. Coming off a game where like Waddle had a really strong game. Achane has been awesome with Tua. Didn't really get much going last week, but still scored 2 touchdowns. So really like Achane. The guy that I really like here is Smith. 4,300. His target share has been absolutely fantastic. Out of the last 5 games with Tua, he has at least 6 targets in 4 of those games, 19 targets over the last 2 weeks. They're getting him way more involved in the red zone. They finally kind of realized that they could use this guy in the red zone, but I mean, he's having a great year. Was he at 535 and 4 touchdowns? Jonnu Smith is, I'm a Dolphins fan. I watch a lot of Dolphins games, and he is definitely way more involved in this offense. So I really like him. if you want to play the cold weather narrative and say maybe Tua checks down more, I think that's good. But listen, overall, Miami, like you're still fast in cold weather, so I still love the upside here for Tua, Tyreek, Achane, Waddle, and then I like Smith's role right now that he has in the red zone. So the one good thing about Miami is it's kind of condensed offense. You know the 4 or 5 guys it's going to go to here. So I like Miami. Again, I might be a homer, and I might just be rooting for my Dolphins on Thanksgiving Day to do well against Green Bay. I know it's cold. It's 20. It's not below. It's not supposed to snow. So I really like Miami. I haven't looked at FanDuel pricing, to be honest. I know someone in the chat's asking about or saying something about FanDuel pricing. I haven't looked at FanDuel's 3-game slate at all. I mean, I'm gonna look really quick because I haven't. I haven't. So I'm doing the podcast right now, and then I have all my premium content work to do for NFL. I did this first. HN 9K. That's a lot for him. Yeah, I mean Tracy's 6,500. I feel like that's your probably the biggest misprice on FanDuel. Tracy definitely gonna be a staple for me over there. So I mean, first look on FanDuel is it looks like pricing is somewhat softer too. And DraftKings pricing is really soft. Like Jared Goff and Tua are expensive, but I mean you got Love, Williams, Rush that are all pretty cheap still. So anyway. All right, Green Bay side of this game. I mean, where Miami is vulnerable still is still the run. I know that running backs have not had as much success against the Dolphins here recently, but I mean, it's been New England, it's been Vegas. They did kind of shut down the Rams run game a little bit. Buffalo, they haven't allowed more than 100 rushing yards in 5 straight games. They have gotten beat a little bit more by the pass, but it's such a small slate. Jordan Love is really good at kind of finding the open guy. So I don't mind Jordan Love in this spot. I really like Josh Jacobs. I know, like I said, the Dolphins have struggled or been a lot better against running backs. You just look at some of the opponents, and Josh Jacobs is having a low-key fantastic season. He's almost at 1,000 yards rushing. He's at, I think, 8 touchdowns is what I looked at earlier. Yeah, 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, when you're looking at this stuff and you're looking at the advanced stats, it's really hard to not have interest in Jacobs. I mean, he's playing 65% of the snaps. He's getting a ton of the rushing attempts for the Packers, and his expected fantasy points is really solid. So I think that, the fact that we've seen him rush for 25 plus times in 2 of the last 4 games is a really good sign. So I like him a lot. I think running back on this slate is kind of weak outside of like Achane, Gibbs, and Jacobs, Tracy. I'm just going to kind of build around those 4 guys. As far as the wide receivers go, I highly doubt Dobbs plays in this game. He left the game with a concussion over the weekend, and it's a short turnaround week. Reed is cheap and Watson's cheap. Wicks is there too. Don't get me wrong. I don't mind Reed or Watson. I don't mind Wicks in large field tournaments. I think this is a week we see Tucker Kraft do much better, and I love that, like, his red zone threat and his touchdown upside. So definitely think Kraft is in play. Reed and Watson in play. Watson, I mean, he extremely talented. He has a lot of upside when he gets going. Reed has a lot of upside as far as just a possession receiver, but they just haven't been throwing the ball as much here recently. Green Bay, second fewest passing percentage, 51.8%. Only Detroit throws the ball less than Green Bay. Green Bay, like Easy just said in chat, Green Bay wants to run the football. When you're seeing a rush percentage at 51.8%, it's really, really high. That's why we like playing the Bengals and the Chiefs and the Broncos. They and the Seahawks, they throw the ball so much, over 66%. None of those teams on this slate. Dallas throws the ball a lot too. All right. I'll play the morning grind game. Why not? We'll play the morning grind game, right? smaller slate, so we might have to change rules up a little bit. Hopefully this is helpful. It helped me kind of talk through some stuff, so always good to get these slates going. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards here. Give me Caleb Williams, I think, for 300 plus. It's either Caleb Williams or Jared Goff, in my opinion. Give me Caleb Williams to throw for 300 plus here. Low-owned running back for a touchdown. I don't think any of these low-owned guys get there. I'm going to go Tracy. He's lower-owned than some of these guys, so give me Tracy to get a touchdown this week. Quarterback, wide receiver, stack for a touchdown. Give me Goff and St. Brown for this question. I have a lot of interest in that stack. Wide receiver for 8+ targets. Give me Keenan Allen. Love his target share here recently. I think he's a really, really strong play. Tight end for a touchdown. Give me my boy from Miami. Give me Smith. Love his role right now in the red zone. Defense for 10+ points. I think this one's tough. Said I don't really want to pay up for anybody. I think like you get a higher chance of a defensive touchdown from the Cowboys-Giants game. So give me the Dallas defense to score 10+ points this week. Like, you got Rush against DeVito in that game. I feel like you're going to get something like the potentially here. Betting portion of the show. So I do have a money liner against spread bet. I bet Miami plus 3.5. I know you can still find this on some books at plus 3.5. So again, this might be a homer pick. So, minus 118. Yeah, minus 118 at minus 115 at DraftKings at plus 3.5. So I like Miami. Getting that extra point, I think, is big for that line. And then I don't have an over-under bet that I like. I think that, if anything, maybe the Bears game, but I don't want to bet that. So I don't like giving out stuff that I don't like, or that I wouldn't bet personally. And player prop. So I already bet this too. Tyrone Tracy over 63.5 rushing yards. I think that you can get a combo rushing prop and receiving prop on him. You definitely can look at that too. But I think the line is a little low here for Tracy at 63.5. He has hit this in 3 of his last 4 games. Didn't love it as much with DeVito last week, but I think that he can get it going against this terrible run defense. I think they're going to have to. I think both teams are going to have to run the ball a lot in this game. Could lead to the under hitting. I just don't want to bet the under in this game because it's the Cowboys and the Giants, and they're really bad on defense. So that's going to wrap it up here for Wednesday. Back tomorrow, I'm going to break down another solo podcast tomorrow. I'm going to break down the Week 13 NFL main slate tomorrow on the podcast, so that'll be fun. Lakers getting blown out by the Suns is huge for the Spurs, by the way. Talked about it a lot yesterday in the podcast, the NBA Cup stuff. Spurs very much alive now with that game. And the Spurs, they won by like 12 or 13 too, right? So that makes them very alive. I know Wemby had a really good game. So I think Harrison Barnes hit his rebounding prop again. I know he didn't have like a good DFS day, but he hit his rebounding prop again. Anyway, I hope everyone has a fantastic Wednesday. Back tomorrow talking football again. And we'll see you again tomorrow.